Hello and welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're joining us from. And welcome to episode 15 of Exploring Intersections. This is a live stream space that's dedicated to unpacking intersections as we co create a future work that works for everyone. And my name is Meenakshi Iyer. I'm your host. I also serve as a personal agility, self leadership, and change leadership coach at North Star Solutions and Services, which is a boutique, future work oriented coaching, training, and consulting practice that serves professionals and leaders around the world. And I started exploring intersections, I want to say about a year and a half ago, and as a space to really look at different perspectives, diverse perspectives, because I believe that intersections are really interesting spaces that help us see things from others' perspectives and also help us uh, develop a sense of empathy. And so I have the pleasure and privilege of speaking with guests from around the world to talk about what intersections they inhabit and what those intersections mean to them and what it means to us from a future of work perspective. So, if this is your first time joining us, welcome. As of 2023, so this is the second episode of 2023, we intend to go live with Exploring Intersections every other week on Wednesdays at 8 a.m. New York time. So today I have the pleasure of talking to the fantastic Kiwa Singh, who's based in Uttarakhand in India, in northern India. And Kiva is a coach, entrepreneur, a change maker, and she's also the founder of Mountain Village Foundation. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Today's intersection is about doing good and doing well. What does that mean? What does it feel like to be at this intersection? And that's what Kiva is here to share more about. A little bit about how I met Kiva before I invite you to introduce yourself a little bit more, Kiva. First of all, thank you so much for making the time and being here with us today.
Pleasure's all mine, Meenakshi. Thank you so much. It's so lovely to be here in this space, and we'll get to it in a while. But I think intersections is just such a beautiful concept. So I'm glad that I'm a part of it through you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much. Kiva and I first met, I want to say, a few months ago through the Kocharia community. I'm an alumna, and Kiva is part of the Kocharia community. So she's going to tell us more about that. And as you can see, Kiva is into different spaces. So she's an educator at heart, and she's been in the social development, social sector for many years now, based in India. And if I'm not wrong, you have your parents have worked in the military, so you've moved around quite a bit in
Yes,
India.
that's right. Yes,
Yeah,
my father was in the army. That's right. Yeah.
yeah. So we want to hear more about you, Kiva, and how you got into what you're doing today.
Wow, wonderful. Thank you so much for such a kind introduction, Minakshi. And I think it's a beautiful space that you're trying to create because I think there's so much to learn from everybody and from every story. So I feel really nice to be a part of this with you today. So a little about the work that I've been doing. Um, so, like you had shared, I'm a coach, an educator, and a change maker. I think at least that's what I believe I am. And these three words closely associ- associate with a lot of parts of my identity that I believe to have picked up at different points in time. So I think just a quick introduction for everybody. I have worked in the social development space for over a decade now, and my journey in this space actually started with a fellowship program that I did in 2012 with an organization called Teach for India. They're doing fantastic job in the space of education, and as part of the fellowship program, fellows would work in an under-resourced school in challenging communities where the students came from, and the idea was to help children to develop themselves holistically and overcome the kind of challenges that they face by being in the ecosystem that they're a part of. So I think that's where it all started, understanding people, understanding communities, systems, and uh, one thing led to another. And that's when I thought of doing something in the hills where I come from, in Uttarakhand. I thought that I have gained a bit of experience, and I if I can, I would like to try and explore the space and see if I could do something for people who I associate with a lot, who I connect with a lot, because I feel like they are me in a way, right? Because they've had experiences that I've had, and uh, I thought, why not? Like, give it a shot and see if we can do something for people who come from under-resourced areas here. And that's how Mountain Village Foundation came into being in 2018. And from there, as the foundation was picking up, I did begin to feel that I needed to grow as well, and there are limitations that I bring to this space. And that's where Kocharya came into the
Mm,
space where I work as a director of marketing now. And as you said, I have gotten into coaching, and I'm a budding coach. so so I think it's when I think of intersection, Minakshi, one of the thoughts that comes to my mind actually is a Venn diagram
mhm,
with one part of it showing values that I believe hold true to who I am.
mm,
I think of beliefs that have been formed through different experiences, and I think of, let's say, the most prominent experiences that have shaped who I am and what I'm doing because of my understanding of that self. So I think both coaching and the education space and the kind of change that both these spaces create
mm,
is where I lie right now. So
mm.
when I think intersection, that's what's coming to me.
That's so beautifully said. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that, Kiva. And that was, in fact, I was going to ask you that, like, what does this intersection of doing good and doing well mean to you? And you've shared that so beautifully. So, how did you go about? Tell us a little bit more about Mountain Village Foundation and what was the genesis? I know you shared your experience with Teach for America and then how you started Mountain Village Foundation in 2018. Can you share more about how you got started and
Yes, certainly. I mean, actually, I was Teach for India, but I'll
Teach for
just
India?
share a
Sorry,
little.
yes.
Yes, no worries. So in 2018, early 2018, I had been thinking a little about just where I was in life and what I was doing with the skills that I have, with the knowledge that I have. And I think every time I thought about it, I was in a different state that time in India, in Maharashtra, and I would always think about Uttarakhand, and I would always think that I felt very grateful to the upbringing that I've had, and I felt like there was so much to learn from people who come from the hill community. Like, I think one of my biggest learnings has been that they're simple people who value nature, who believe in goodness, and who believe in being there for each other. And I think through challenging times, I always thought that those stories that I'd heard growing up were the ones that kept me going. And I had this deep sense of wanting to come back here and wanting to create a space where that doesn't get lost in a way. And when I say that, I say it because the reality in Uttarakhand, especially in the hilly areas right now, is
Mm,
that there's lack of or there's very limited employment opportunities for people. I think it's more because of the terrain. People here in India, as compared to other states in India, have one of the highest literacy rates, but one of the highest migration rates as well at the same time. And the reason
mm,
is because of lack of opportunities within the state, especially in the hilly areas.
mm,
And that's when the idea of Mountain Village Foundation came in, which was with the talent that lies in the hills, with the skills that people already have, and with the opportunities that could get created. Is there a way to, in the long run, curb that migration by building opportunities for people within the place where they live in? So at MVF, we work with primarily children and women, and there is an entrepreneurship program that we've designed, which we run in schools in partnership with schools, low income schools, and we run a class with the teachers in the school every week, which is on entrepreneurship and building 21st century skills like creativity, critical thinking, communication, and collaboration while students work on a project that they lead.
Mm.
And the idea is that from a young age, if they have the opportunity to work on something that matters to them and to work on something that can make their community, their neighborhood better, they will develop a sense of building or creating something. And as
Mm.
they do that, build an identity for themselves. And I think that's who an entrepreneur is, right? In many
Mm.
ways. And I think
Yeah,
actually you might be able to relate to it, given that you
absolutely.
are on that journey yourself. So that's primarily the work we do, and with women it's a slightly different model, and we're exploring that a little bit more with the talent that the women already have. How can we upskill that and help them to create marketable products which in a way give them financial independence?
Mm.
So we work in those two areas. Yeah.
Okay, okay, that's fantastic. And when you shared about how you would always think back to Uttarakhand and the people there, and you said they're very simple people who believe in goodness, and they know how to coexist with nature, right? And that made me think about how those values are so critical in today's world, especially with all the climate changes, climate related issues that we're facing. Uh, and then Uttarakhand is one of the regions in India that's been fairly badly affected by it, right? So, can you tell us more about how your work has evolved, and really, what has been your lived experience been at this intersection of, because you're doing good at the same time you're also doing well, in the sense, when I think about this intersection, for me, it's about doing good is when you're thinking about the community, the ecosystem that you're a part of, and then doing well is more at the individual level. And from where I sit, I see, um, for me personally, you have figured that out, is how it looks to me, So I would love to hear more about your lived experience at this intersection, as you're also building yourself, and you're engaged in coaching, and you're part of the Coachaya community, and then you have the work that you're doing through MBF.
So I think in many ways, like I said at the start, I look at it as change. Both the aspects is change, and I think change is something which is very important to me, because I think when I think of change, I think of growth and I think of possibilities. And I think when I think of doing good and doing well, when I look at both from that perspective, I feel it's a cyclical process in a way. One feeds into the other. So with MVF, one of the things that I feel very proud of, I think, is the kind of hope that I think the program has built in the beneficiaries, in the stakeholders that are working with us on this. I think when we had started off in the beginning, it was very challenging for us to sometimes explain to people what entrepreneurship is, what these skills are, how this is going to help people, because everything is so futuristic, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it's very difficult to sometimes envision what that looks like. But I think through these years, in small ways, with small proof points, we've been able to show that when you create an environment, an ecosystem where people have the right skills, the right opportunities, and the freedom to try, experiment, fail, and pick themselves up, things change. And the schools we work with, they've seen children grow, they've seen children speak up, seen children explore, become curious about things around them. So when I think of good, uh, I wouldn't say like we've done something which is like systemically created a huge shift, but I think we are definitely building hope, and we can see that shifting in people, be it parents, be it teachers, be it principals, the children themselves. And when children themselves say that, oh my God, like a year back, I didn't know this, but now I know this, and you see that spark, sparkle in the eye, that's when you know that, okay, things are shifting. And I think that's how I connect the work that we are doing as coaches in the coaching space. It's literally the same thing. It's about creating a safe space where people have the right skills that they require, right, through the awareness that they build, the depth that they build within themselves, to find, that thing that shifts within them, the confidence that they gain once they've, figured something out for themselves. So I think when I look at both give me that sense of change and the sense of new possibilities that get created.
Hmm.
uh, and Meenakshi, to your question, I think when I think of experiences and not just the current ones that I'm having, I think there are a lot that over the years I can now connect the dots, right? Like
Hmm.
from when I was in school and the education system that I was a part of, like I was unhappy, you know. I honestly thought school was boring,
Yeah.
and the only exciting part were the breaks, because that's when you could, enjoy with your friends, talk about things that really were important to you. Uh, Most of the teachers didn't really care much about you or your anything except your grades, and that was so boring, right? I
Yes.
mean, again, that's futuristic, right? Which, I mean, who cares? Like when I'm in grade 6, I just want to play and have fun. Right? And I think so. A lot of the work that we do with children is coming from that experience now.
Hmm.
Right? The space should be fun. Kids should be talking. Like kids in our classes talk a lot. Like they talk all the time, and we tell them to talk, and we tell them to sit with their friends and learn with the friends.
Hmm.
And that's how I feel about coaching. Like when I got into this space, the two words actually that came to my mind. One was coaching liberates you because it
Hmm.
heals something inside you. And that's exactly what I wanted, that we all want in a classroom for children or for the women who we work with,
Hmm.
right? Space that liberates you, space that heals you. uh, I'm very very grateful actually to the coaching experience that I've had, because a lot of the things that I'm doing as a coach and with the team that I work with in Cocharia and then at MDF, I feel at the end of it, it all comes down to all those core competencies that we focus on, right? Presence, listening, building trust. And that's the power of coaching. It's never limited to a sector or a particular space,
Yeah.
right? It's where people exist, it's where systems exist.
Hmm.
And yeah, that's how I'm looking at this.
Hmm. Yeah. Wow, that was just incredible. There's so many aspects that you called out, and I loved how you travel between these two spaces of the work that you do through MBF and the work that you're doing for yourself, and sort of building your own career in a way as a coach. Yeah,
Yes.
and also what struck me is the I think I would disagree with you in that, oh, we're not seeing big things. I think it's a big thing because you're sowing seeds, right? With the next generation, with the children. And if they are able to realize their own growth, how wonderful is that? So I wouldn't sell so short on that. um,
Thanks.
yeah, yeah. So, can you tell us a little bit more about like what is the age group that you serve and how many students? Like how does it all work?
So we right now work with around 500 to 600 children, and they're spread across different schools. Some in uh, the Nainital town area, and some in remote areas where we work in partnership with other NGOs, whose teachers we train on our program. We upskill them, and then they conduct the program, and then we do an analysis of how things are progressing through the projects that the kids work on. So, like I said, the classes are conducted once a week, or sometimes twice as well if needed. And it's a well designed program that has components of design thinking. So once again, design thinking and coaching, I see a lot of connection in the two, with both being forward in nature, both keeping things uh, very user centric, which is like in coaching, it would be a client centric approach. It's the same with design thinking,
Hmm.
with the focus on what is the need of the client, what is the need of the user, and how can your idea or your support turn things around for that person.
Mm.
And how do you leverage the community and how do you collaborate with different stakeholders. So students, we have a project called Dreams, which are the different stages that we've created through the design thinking process, and the children undertake a project based on a need that they have felt. So for example, one of the projects that the students worked on was feeling not very confident because we don't know English. We don't know how to speak in English. So the students decided that first, how many kids face this problem? So then you first define what the problem is, and then you get to the root cause of the problem, right? Like, why is not knowing a language affecting you so much, right? So one is about what society thinks. One is about what I think, what I believe. So the facilitator who conducts the workshop is only a facilitator and doesn't give any solutions, but creates a safe space for children to explore these critical questions that helps them to connect with themselves and understand their relationship with the world that they operate in. And then they go through the stages with envisioning what they want should change in their lives based on the problem they've identified, and then creating a clear action plan on what steps they want to take towards changing that, and what resources they need in order to make that change happen. And all of this is led by children in teams, mostly. Then children work on the project, and then they track what has shifted within them and what has shifted for people around them. We largely work with students who are in grade 6 and above, but we do have some schools where students are as young as grade 3 as well, because surprisingly, and I hate to use that word surprising because I think that that's a bias that we operated with initially, but we've actually got some of the most impactful solutions from children who are younger. And we realized that one of the reasons could be because they haven't picked up so much from the ecosystem yet, or they haven't allowed the ecosystem to impact them, right? So it's like things are still fresh. They're not worried, they're not fearful of anything, so they're like, I think we need to do this. If I can be in front of the stage speaking, my fear will go away, right? So they're more intuitive and in touch with their intuitive selves, I think, very naturally. Which I think for a lot of the older grades, they're having to unpack a lot of that, connect with themselves, and then get started with the project. So yeah, so that's where we are, grade 3 and above most, but grade 6 and above mostly. And the idea is to support students from whenever they start with us till they complete school and then beyond, so that till they have actually gone through their entrepreneurial journey and uh, actually created something for themselves, which in the future is also giving them financial independence. Like that's the plan.
Mm.
And the reason we work with women is because we feel that women in the hills especially have a huge impact in the way the families think. We feel like they are they are regarded as people who are important decision makers in the family. And we think that the only thing that they lack is financial independence, and if they have that, they're in a position to actually change so much for their own families and for their communities. uh, and I think they have a natural sense of giving, and we've seen that when they do well, like, they like to share that with more people. They like to talk about their work with more people, and I think they feel proud of who they are. And I think a lot more people need to see that, and when children see that from a younger age,
Yeah.
that our mothers are doing well, or didis in the village are doing well, and we are so proud of them, it shifts something inside everybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah.
Oh my gosh, I'm just getting goosebumps listening to you, and I'm just blown away. So many things that you've shared just now, and I'm sitting here unpacking all of it myself. It's like when we talk about future work and we talk about entrepreneurship. Uh, I don't know about you, but the images that generally tend to pop up are all these um, uh, like English speaking is a big part of that, and using these concepts like design thinking and all that. It's like so out there type of thing, right? That you need some sort of very specialized skills to use all that or be in that space, and it's so not true. And
I
your
agree.
work is evidence of that, right? It's
Yeah.
and you're right. I mean, as I'm hearing you speak, there are so many unconscious biases that I'm checking on myself, saying, that's a bias, and ooh, why did I think that? Right? Um, it's just fantastic, and once again, I just want to I want to take a moment to highlight some of the things that you've just shared. And one being working with children and how younger children seem to be some of the more enterprising ones, really, right? Because the fear of failure is practically non-existent, and so that opens up doors, and their neural pathways are just forming, and
Yeah.
so it's joy to work with them. It reminded me of Professor Hal Gregerson and his work called Question Burst. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, so there's this whole. I think he's in the process of revamping it now, but the, he had this whole thing called 424, and I think it was based on this concept that by the time children are 4 years old or older than that, they they ask the most questions around that age, and then somehow the number of questions they ask sort of tapers down. And that came to mind as you were sharing what you've seen, observed with younger children, right? So this whole thing, this Project 424, is about how we as adults in the workplace, for instance, can, if we take uh, 4 minutes a day, it adds up to 4 minutes a day if we set aside to just ask questions, like do a question burst,
Wow.
the impact that it can create in a whole year. So that's what came up for me as you were sharing that. And also what you talked about, the reason, the why that you work with women. And you're so right? When you educate a woman, you educate a whole family, a whole community, because we tend to um, we tend to bring people together, and we want to move forward, and we bring the whole community together. And it was so gratifying to hear. For me personally, I grew up in Agra. My base years, my foundational years of my life were in Agra, and you know, um, as a South Indian family living in Agra, we lived in an island in a cocoon inside our home. But the exposure that I had when I went to school and otherwise, those images around how women are treated or women are looked at, and how little power they have within the spaces that they inhabit, and spaces that they do so much to create and nurture, but they have so little decision making power, right? Um, but it was gratifying for me to hear the shifts that are happening and how Mountain Village Foundation is a part of that in creating that. It was fantastic. Yeah. I just want to welcome anyone that's going to join us or that have just joined us. So we are on episode 15 of Exploring Intersections, and the intersection that we're talking about today is doing good and doing well. And our guest is Kiva Singh, who is, among many other things, she's the founder of Mountain Village Foundation, which is a non-government organization based in the northern part of India in Uttarakhand that works with children and women in the region to help them uh, set up for success in life. That's what they focus on. So we are talking about what this intersection of doing good and doing well looks like, and Kiva has been talking to us about how Mountain Village Foundation came about and what is the work that they do and how it's creating positive impact in the community. And those of you that will watch the recording later on YouTube, so we are currently live on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. So those of you that will watch the recording, we want to thank you for your time as well. So, Kiva, as we kind of get into the second half of the conversation, if you will, um, can you share a little bit about what does the future hold for Mountain Village Foundation, and what does it look like for you as Kiva Singh?
I think there are two things that come to my mind. One is definitely one of the things that we've learned is that the challenge that exists in the region where we work, there are similar challenges in other hilly areas in the Himalayan belt. We hope and are working towards it, want to actually spread our work across the region, the Himalayan belt, with other states coming in as well, be it Himachal Pradesh, be it Northeast, like with, I think, Of course, there are certain things that are different as well, but I think the core challenge more or less stays the same. And I think education has the power, and now with the way we are all within the space also trying to leverage technology, it opens up an opportunity to really really reach many more children across the belt. So I think one of the things that I do see is reaching more children across the Himalayan belt through our program, and having many many more collaborations with educators, with change makers in different capacities. Because I think the space itself is such that you can learn literally from anyone and everyone, right? Because children right now, they haven't decided, right, who they want to be or what they want to be professionally. Uh, so anybody who I think has a kind heart, is responsible, and is doing something that they are passionate about can join hands with us in any form that they like, maybe by volunteering their services, uh, helping us with our program, expanding our work in any form, any way possible, is one of the things that we are looking at. So I think reaching more children, more educators, and collaborators from across sectors in order to make this the hope that I spoke about reach many more children. With women, one of the things that we want to kickstart this year is actually an incubation program. So until now, what we've been doing was teaching them how to create something from scratch. And in the process, we realized that there are many women who already know things, and what they probably lack would be certain business oriented skills, which could be branding, packaging, marketing their work. And we thought that why not have an incubation program for selected women to start with, where we take them through this training and help them to get some seed money to get started with their own entrepreneurship projects, based on something that they are themselves passionate about. So how that helps them is they of course become financially independent, and at the same time, because they're on that journey, they open up opportunities for many more women or individuals uh, to join them. So instead of just impacting one woman, one family, through that same woman, we can reach many more women and many more families. So that's where we see ourselves, at least in the next 2 to 3 years, expanding our work with women, by building more entrepreneurs,
Hmm.
and with children, by definitely having a lot more collaborations across the Himalayan belt. So
Hmm. That's just fabulous, and best wishes, and wish you so much success in
thank you,
your
Meenakshi.
aspirations, and realizing these dreams. And what really struck me, and I missed mentioning this earlier, when you started sharing your story, you talked about how you were in a different state. You were in Maharashtra, and you kept thinking about Uttarakhand, and because that's where you come from. And so for me, what's also inspiring is how you, and coming from a military family, you've lived in different parts of the country, and how you sort of chose to go back to your roots, if you will, in a way, right? And look at what you can do, identify opportunities to sort of give back to where you came from,
Yeah.
type of thing, right? That's very inspiring. So I do want to hear your experience with what were some of the, like, your top one or two challenges that you experienced as you started off Mountain Village Foundation.
Just had a smile on my face, I think, when you said that, because I think we're still in the middle of a lot of challenges. But I think what's changed is we can laugh about them now. So I think initially when I started off, I definitely have to say that MVF has been very lucky. I remember I always love sharing this story with everyone. There's a very cute cafe here. So you can imagine, a tiny hill town and one cute cafe called the Sims Cafe, where all the youngsters go, all the children go. And I went to the owner, who later became is a very good friend of mine. And I said, I'm planning to start this and it's still new and I'm looking for volunteers. Can I put up a poster? And she looked at the poster. She's like, oh my God, I want to be a volunteer. I was like, oh yes, now we have our first volunteer. And we put up the poster, and then we had like so many people signing up, right? And I was myself surprised. I was like, oh my god, okay, now we have so many people now. We really need to get started. you know. So I think I wanted to start with that story because I think as much as there have been many challenges, we still have many challenges. I think that story has always stayed with me because just when we started, we knew that we have the support, we have people, we
Mm,
have resources. Just believe in what you're doing and you will get there. And that's literally been the story with MVF till now.
mm,
Every time we've been in trouble, we literally put out a message on the group or a volunteers group, and we're like, we need help. Who can help us? And we'll always have five people saying, what do you need help with? You know.
mm.
So I wanted to
So
start
it's
with that.
really like community powered, isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah, it is. It is. There are younger kids, school kids during COVID. So many of them said, we are at home, we have homework, but we are bored and we want to do something better. So can we volunteer? We were like, yeah, join in, volunteer with us. And they created these very, very nice, like creative videos for children that we passed on. So it's literally like I always think that it's been a collective right from the start. And I think it's
Mm,
always going to be a collective.
mm,
Uh, be it with the donors, they've all been my friends, family, people who I probably spoke to once somewhere and they said, we want to join hands. Why not? Let's try and do something together. So I think we've been blessed, but at the same time, there've definitely been challenges. So I think at the start, I think funds is always a challenge for anybody who's doing anything, right? And in the beginning, I was like, okay, I'm so excited about this. And I've started this and we have volunteers, but we don't have money and we are going to soon, like how we're going to sustain ourselves. And I remember talking to another old colleague of mine who had started something in Maharashtra. And I said, I got really excited. I'm really scared now. Like I got into this and now I'm like, oh my God, like, did I even think through it practically? Because I did not. It was all heart. It was like, I want to do something. I have the skills. Let's go for it. It was literally that,
mm,
you know. And of course, maybe at the back of your mind, you keep playing those practical decisions. But I think in work like this, I think your heart takes center stage.
mm,
And I remember he told me this, and it stayed with me, and it's become a part of my life's mantra for everything. If you really believe in something, just give it all the energy that you have, and all the resources that you want will come your way. And
mm,
we've been blessed that way. Maybe it started small and then gradually things are picking up. But we literally, I would tell people, let's just go. We have this, let's say, 2 hours with children. Let's give it our best shot and let's tell people about it. Let's see what happens. And one thing led to another. But I think funds is a constant challenge for anybody who's in this
mm,
space. And I think that goes without saying. I mean, it's a part of the story for everyone. But I think the initial challenges have been with consistency. When
mm,
I say that, it's like every step has needed consistency, right? So, with the step of telling people about what you're trying to do, it requires consistent efforts and it requires every part of the team to be as consistent, especially because you're building a brand in a way.
mm,
Even if one part is loose, it's like people don't get it, right? So literally, and we've been in a way lucky with that, but we've had to also build it, right? So we knew that when we go and talk to somebody about the program, we knew the kind of responses we get initially. We say, oh, okay, you're doing art and craft, but then we had to shift that understanding that this is not art and craft, and the kids are not going to be doing art and craft, which is also very important, and there are parts of it that has art and craft, but we're trying to do something different. But I think over a period of 1 year, we showed, let's say, the two schools we started with, that this is what we're talking about. And they became the voice of the program. They
mm,
connected us to more people, and they still continue to connect us with more people. And it again goes back to what this other entrepreneurs who both had told me, right? Just do your work, the resources will get connected.
mm. Wow.
So, like I said, yeah, challenges are always going to be a part of the game. With women
Mm,
as well, like we had challenges like timing, like we have other things to do, we have families to take care of, like, so we had to accommodate a lot of those things, but we always told them that do what is going to make you happy. If you think coming to this space you need to get your child along, get your child along. We put some crayons here and a book here, your child can play. It doesn't matter, like if you need something, let's try and do it. And I think, yeah, so it's been a gradual build up, and we've seen certain projects that didn't do that well, which we had to shift. Like, one of the big challenges that you actually face in this area is like you mentioned a while back, right? From the time that we started MVF, there have been massive landslides,
Yeah,
right? There was a point when we didn't have the road between like one of our community centers and where the team stayed. So we had no option but to get, started with technology and say we have to leverage technology if we want consistency, right? Because otherwise we are not being able to put in efforts consistently.
yeah.
Uh, so I think the other thing which I think a lot of people get surprised about is wildlife.
Mm.
We do actually have real leopard attacks here, right? So like beyond a particular point, like you need to make sure that the children safely go back home, because if you keep your center running, there could be like a panther or leopard standing outside your center. So I think initially when we started off, a lot of these things were things I didn't even think about, honestly.
Yeah, yeah,
Like the local transport, it doesn't go to all the areas. So sometimes they say we picked an area out of like, oh, there's so many children here and so many who we can help. But then you later realize, oh, the last bus actually leaves at 4:30. What are you going to do? Children come back from school at 4. You can't just take a class for half an hour, you know. So we experimented with a lot of things, and a lot of challenges logistically that came up, financially that came up. But again, like I said, I think it's important to focus on the strengths that you have, and
mm.
yeah,
Yeah.
and take one step at a time.
Yeah, and that's fascinating. And you know what's coming up for me? So, I'm a lean agile human centered design practitioner, and I've been in the technology space, agile software and product development. And these are these concepts that we talk about and we sometimes struggle to implement with our teams. I see you living them so beautifully, right? Doing one thing at a time. You inspect and adapt. You do something and you learn, and then you pivot. And for me, I'm so enjoying this conversation, and I hope that our audience finds value in this as well. Is that this is to me this is what the future of work is about, building and strengthening these core human skills of collaboration, of problem solving, of empathy, because you're looking at, oh, I have it, transportation can be a challenge, and because these circumstances are different, the environment is different, so it's not a one solution fits all kind of approach at all. So you're building your own knowledge so organically, and human centered design is such an valuable tool in this scenario, right? And you're doing it. It's just organic and it's in flow, and that's just so beautiful. Because I think that in the corporate space we kind of learn these techniques first, and then we want to implement them in our spaces. And that's what's coming up for me as I'm listening to you. It's like, in these spaces and the kind of work that you're doing, it's the most natural thing to do.
Thank you for sharing that, Meenakshi. And as you shared that, I actually thought about our team that is doing like a lot of like all of the work actually on the ground, right?
Yeah.
I remember initially one of the challenges was to get people who are skilled. We didn't have that, but I remember taking a call which was, let's choose people who have the right passion for this work and
Mm,
whose mindset is focused on creating change. Skills they learn. We can teach them skills. We can get volunteers to teach them skills. That's not a problem, because if a person is motivated, they'll make that change happen. And I think that's the best decision that I took, because right
mm,
now, through any challenge that comes up, I'm so proud of the team. Like every member of the team says, what can I do about it? What can we do about it? Right? Because when we are telling children and women to do that for themselves, right, we need to apply that to ourselves. So, with the smallest of challenges to the biggest of challenges, I think the team's mindset has driven uh, literally everything. And if we didn't have that team, if we didn't have people who operated with the right heart, like I feel so proud about this fact that they could have chosen anything else in the world, but they chose, and they continue to choose this every day. And
mm,
skills, of course, we lack it in like 10,000 areas, but who doesn't, right? And the good thing is that with technology you can learn everything now. And if you don't know something, like I said, right, we're lucky, we put it out there, like we don't know this, who can help us? Like we did, like somebody who's struggling with video editing skills, we said, don't waste your time on it, put a message on Instagram, let's see who replies, and we had like five people saying, okay, how can I help you? We said, okay, we'll treat you to fries and sandwiches. Are you up for it? And people were like, yeah, let's do it. So yeah, and yeah, I'm just thinking that sometimes we put too much pressure on ourselves to not ask for things that we want,
Yeah.
right? And we
Yeah.
don't say, we want this, I need this, I don't know this. I know this and I can give you this, but that's it. I think when you put your intention out there and you open up whatever there is in the universe, things come your way.
Mm, mm.
And yeah, like literally like every 2 months we have an exhibition, and we have never paid for that space because the person is like, I want to do something good. In fact, the person who's a CA till we got basic ATG didn't take a fee. And I would tell him that no, please take a fee. Like, I mean, I feel embarrassed because we're coming to you with like such small issues to like big issues. But he's like, no, it's okay. This is my way of supporting your work. And once you have your ATG registration and the basic documentation, we can like discuss all that later. It's
Mm.
not that there's goodness in the world, right? And you got to believe
Yes,
it.
yes. And that's such an important message for all of us to hear, especially during these times where the world is full of strife, and we are faced with, I think, the biggest human challenge in the form of the most number of people displaced
Yeah, yeah,
ever since. I mean, we've even beaten World War II figures.
yeah, yeah,
Tens of millions of people are displaced at the moment. And so to hear this message and what you've been able to create within your community, and how everything is community powered, community sourced, crowdsourced.
yeah.
Um, so this has been just such a wonderful, wonderful conversation, Kiva, and I hope that you are able to amplify this even further and reach more and more children and women in the Himalayan belt, like you were saying. So, speaking of which, what's the best way that people can connect with you? Number one. And number two, what's the best way people can support you globally?
I think collaborations
Mm-hmm.
is something that I believe in. I think everyone in any capacity can contribute.
Mm.
My email ID is simple. It's kiva at mountainvillagefoundation.org. Anyone who wants to help in any way, just drop us an email there, like literally, and we can connect and we can see what can be done. Uh, yeah, literally. I
Okay.
don't think there's anything more than that. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Kiva at mountainvillagefoundation.org.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So, folks, if you're watching this live, or if you're watching this on replay, we've been talking to Kiwa Singh, based in Uttarakhand in India. Kiva is a coach, an entrepreneur, and a change maker, and the founder of Mountain Village Foundation, which is a nonprofit based in the northern part of India. And the best way to reach Kiva is via email. And I think you also hang out on LinkedIn. What other social media do you use? LinkedIn?
You can also find us on Instagram with the same name, Mountain Village Foundation. We're very
Okay.
active, mostly active on Instagram.
Okay.
So, yeah.
That's wonderful. Um, One last question before we wrap up for today, Kiva. Um, how has all this doing good? What have you learned from that? How has that influenced you?
I honestly don't know if I even look at it as doing good. I
Hmm.
think I've always seen it as change, like I said.
Hmm.
I feel very uncomfortable when I see things stuck, either for myself or for people around me. And that's why I love coaching as well. It unstucks me, unstucks things around me. And for me, it's about seeing there's movement. It's about people knowing that they are in charge of that and that they can do that for themselves and for people around them. So I think I get a lot of that power when I see that movement with, like I said, all the resources and the people and the interactions that we have about what's possible. And in both the coaching space and in MBF, like that's exactly what I've gained. Like, yes, I've gained a lot from MBF because I think the kind of I think the goodness that comes from people and their heart, I think it stays with you forever. You know, there are times when, like, we struggle with many things, and people were just like, hey, why didn't you text? Like, why didn't you ask me? I want to do something about it. You know, and it stays with you because I think it's changed my belief about the world. It's made me believe that the world is a lot more kind as compared to what I thought it was. Uh, the world is a space that actually wants to do good. You know, sometimes people don't know where to start or what to do or how to do, and a lot of people get stuck with what can I do about it. But I think every person, just by virtue of being there, you know, adds to things. Like, I remember there was a person who said I can't do much, you know, but they connected us to like three people who could do a lot. You
Mm,
know, so everybody in every capacity can do a lot, and I think it's made me believe that uh, if any of you, anybody has an idea, you should give it a shot. You should not even think twice about it. The resources, the people, everything will come your way. Just believe in it deeply, and you are going to fail at 10,000 things. There's nothing you can do about it, right? But I think what you'll gain is yourself. What you'll gain is an understanding of yourself, which cannot exist without that experience. So I think
mm.
that's a huge learning that I've had, apart from all the other things that I shared. But I think the most important thing has been that the world is a kind place. People are good, and even when you feel low and you think things aren't working in your way, like, believe that there will be something that will come your way and which will shift things for you.
What a profound message there, Kiva. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us and your experience, talking to us about doing good and doing well. And I could not help think of this quote: "It takes courage to be kind," Maya Angelou said. And you, my friend, are very, very courageous. So thank you for everything that you're doing.
Same about you, Meenakshi. I think I still remember the first interaction I had with you. I was like, I remember texting somebody in Kochari saying, oh my God, who is Meenakshi? I loved talking to her. And there's so much to learn from you. And I think it's your presence, it's the intention with which you work, that you're doing so well, and you've created the space for all of us. Uh, you know, so I really really want to thank you for
Thank
this
you.
space and for being who you are, and for a lot more things that we'll also do together. So
Absolutely, Kiva. Thank you so much. I so appreciate that. And wish you the best. And to everyone that watched us live and will watch the replay, thank you for joining us. If you want to learn more about Mountain Village Foundation, get in touch with Kiva. You can find them on Instagram or send Kiva an email, and we'll add all of the information to the show notes as well. So, once again, thank you everyone for exploring the intersection of doing well and doing good with us. And we look forward to seeing you again soon. Take care and be well. Bye for now.